guys, Tony Porter, Cards and Dice TV, and I wanted to discuss the state of affairs of our hobby. You know that I play a handful of games, and I participate in various forums and groups and so on and so forth. I try to minimize my presence as much as possible, to the delight of many, I'm sure. I want to talk about some of my projects right now. I continue with my 1959 Braves project, which came out of someone who was struggling with the project themselves, and they weren't happy with the results. They didn't feel that their team was winning enough, and on and on. And I was just trying to explain, hey man, it's the luck of the roll. You know, it's the luck of the dice a lot of times. And if, you know, sometimes everything can go right, and other times not, right? So I wanted to, mention that. I also want to mention that I'm working and playing through my 76 replay. Both replays are at almost the halfway mark, which is pretty good where I expect it to be. I expect to finish these by the end of July, both. So I'm doing about, I'd like to say 10 games a week approximately. That's what I'm shooting for. So sometimes I do them in bunches. 10 games a week approximately, give or take weeks that something may be going on. That's going on. Baseball's going on right now, so I'm not out there a lot. I watch my team, religiously every night that they're playing, and I enjoy, the conversations, the back and forth of the dynamic trio of Mets announcers, Keith Hernandez and Ron Darley and Gary Cohen. I love their back and forth, their banter. All right, so those are now. I also have my 1971 deep drive replay with the 71 Oakland A's. I've always harbored a fundamental, appreciation for the progressive nature of Charlie Finley, and in terms of trying new things, different uniforms, going against the grain to get people excited about the game, getting guys to grow out their mustaches, and I think he was a guy who was into the yellow baseballs and stuff like that. Anyway, I always kind of appreciated that. So I said, I really valued that. I think those teams were amazing. They were dynasties. 72, 73, 74 A's. Well, 71, the year I'm replaying, is the same team. Okay, they just don't have the confidence yet. They do get to the playoffs, I believe. I got to double check that, but I believe they have definitely a good record in 71. And they just don't have it. The following year is when everything turns around for them, and for the next 3 years they're in the World Series. So that is pretty powerful. So I'm playing that. I'm using Deep Drive Baseball, and I'm using now version 3. I've upgraded to version 3. I don't know if it's an upgrade. Version 2 is pretty good. This has got a little bit smoother, a little bit fewer. It's kind of reduced. It eliminated one of the rolls, the additional roll to see if it's a wild pitch, pass ball. That's automatic now. It's right off the card. They simplified the range and error chart to be just one roll, and then you can get a result. So those are I'm doing those three. A fall classic with the 2 replays, the 76 Yankees and the 59 Braves, and then I'm using Deep Drive Baseball for the 1971 replay, the A's replay. I'm also using Status Pro, which I've been looking out for lately. Prices have doubled for that game since the last 8 or 9 years. I have a bunch from back then, which I bought very cheaply, and now they've doubled in price. Back then they were going for about $35. Now they're $70. I picked up a couple of my favorite seasons in the 80s, 83, because Seaver comes back to the Mets, and 87, because the combination of Mets power and speed is fascinating to me. I really like that. They had a very dynamic offense, for sure. They're never out of the game, no matter what. It could be 6-1 in the 6th inning, and by the 8th inning, they're winning 8-6. That's the type of offense they have. So that's I'm looking toward replaying 87 after I'm done with this set. I'm already planning out buying the stuff. I haven't decided which game I'm going to use yet. Now, I don't, as you know, I try to do a game a day for my Facebook channel, right? The Facebook channel is C&D Cards and Dice TV. So I try to do a game a day approximately. Sometimes I fall a little behind. Sometimes on a Saturday I can do 3 games in a day. So that's one thing. So be on the lookout for that. Remember to like and subscribe and click on that little bell so you're notified as to when I have something. Whether you watch it or you don't watch it, that's depending on your situation. But it's good to at least be aware that this is coming up and this person's playing. I do a lot of tutorials where I just do a card and I'll analyze the card. I'll spend like the whole maybe a 12 to 15 minute video just looking at the card, analyzing the card. I've done that several times with several different games. So be on the lookout for that. So, and if you go through the videos on my channel, you may find a lot of things that, have over, 1,000 views, because they struck a chord with the community and they thought it was interesting and I hit something big there. I do a lot of videos. Some are outstanding, and some are just kind of replays of stuff that really interests me, and other guys are like, oh, this is not so interesting. I have a lot of guys who watch because they find it interesting, but it's just sometimes it's kind of peculiar, right? It's like I have that 83 thing where I like to replay 83. So if you're not into 83, you're probably not going to be interested in that. But at least when I change up and I do something a little bit different, because every so often I'll mix something in there. I'm doing an 83, but I'm doing a 59. Then I was doing games with 87 using Stratomatic. I was doing games with APA, the classic APA from the 60s. I was doing the 61 Yankees. So I'm still doing that. I still have that on the shelf a little bit. What else did I want to talk about? So those are all my projects right now. The hobby in general, it can get ugly out there. I'm just gonna recommend that not to avoid personal attacks. If you don't agree, I make jokes all the time about you can't say best, you can't say worst, you can't say I don't have an opinion. I make that kind of sarcastic humor, and it's really, if somebody says, hey, my game's the best, okay, it's the best. It's the best to you. You don't have to comment. You could just move on. Saying, I don't know, maybe it's the best to him. Maybe he really likes it. Maybe he doesn't know my game. He doesn't understand my game. He doesn't get my game. Whatever it is. He doesn't like my game. Whatever it is. Doesn't matter. Don't have to. Why can't we say best? Because we're going to argue. So a lot of people are basically, they censor you. A lot of these forums censor you. Can't say best. You can't say worst. You can't say this. You can't say that. I mean, you know what? Everything's great and everything's terrible. End the story and move on. If somebody says something you don't agree with, move on. It's that simple. Start your own thread somewhere else. Skip the comment altogether. Go to a comment you're interested in, and you have something positive to add. I don't understand why we have to argue over every single thing. There's a guy who just recently on Universal Baseball Association, he went on there and he said, these are the games I know, and he listed 5 or 6 really good games, maybe 6 or 7 really decent games. There was 3 or 4 in there that I think, hold up well. Do you guys know any others? Well, here came every single guy that's on. People love this sort of thing because they want to sell their game. I went up there. I have a couple of videos for game that I play, but I made tutorials, short tutorials. I said, check out this short tutorial. I try to make them short. Sometimes they go long because I'm doing an in-depth tutorial. I try not to share those as much. I try to share the ones that are kind of short and sweet so you get a flavor of it. And if you want to look at a longer video, you always can. There's a lot of guys that do a lot of videos in different ways. And, I've watched them all and they've all been helpful to me. So my video may be helpful for you too, and then that may lead you to somebody else whose video may be helpful to you, and ultimately that's the whole point of making the videos, is to be helpful to somebody. I think that's so crucial and critical, right? So I want to talk about that. I want to talk about that state of, hey, let's accept that somebody may not find our game all that great, and what if I saw a guy that was on one of the forums that had a top 5 worst games, and they immediately, banished him from the forum and deleted his his meme or whatever it was. I thought it was hilarious. What difference does it make? So, I mean, ID Jester, for example, did the top 20 games. Well, the 20th game is probably the worst game out of the 20 that he looked at. So that would be a worst list as well as a best list, right? But you could always say every game is so amazing. I had to put them in some sort of order, and the 20th was just as good as the first, and blah, blah, blah. That's all fake. You have some games you like. You have some games you don't like for different reasons. And that's the name of the game. And what I find hard to understand is when guys can say this game is the best, but they've only played that game. Okay, I don't get that. I mean, if you've only played one game, how can it be the best? I mean, I don't understand. You're not comparing. You can't compare it to anything else because you never played anything else. Maybe there's a game that you would like better if you would try it, right? But try to convince somebody of that. A lot of our guys are extremely stubborn, very, narrow-minded. They're not going to go out there and try different games. There's some games that I won't try. Doesn't mean they're not great games. It's just I won't try right now. Maybe in the future I will. I never say never. Like that James Bond movie, Sean Connery, when he left James Bond and like 4 or 5 years later he came back, and the movie was named Never Say Never. So I never say never. And rest in peace, Sean Connery, amazing actor, coolest dude on the planet. That movie with Ursula Andress, right? Oh God, coming out of the water, right? The cool Caribbean, I guess it was, maybe they were in the Caribbean or the Mediterranean or somewhere, in that swimsuit. Oh man, she was gorgeous. She was a beast of a lady. So anyway, all right. So getting back to what I was talking about, So we don't have to go nuts over it. If a guy says, "Hey, I really like this game; it's the best," there's a lot of guys saying, "This is the greatest game. I've never played any game better than this game." You know what? Am I going to get into him with him? Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. Oh, have you tried this game? Have you tried that game? How many times have you played it? Why? Who cares? Who cares what I say? I go on forums and I make a comment. I got 20 guys forget totally about the topic and come at me, and I tell them, don't worry about my opinion. Worry about your own. If you don't agree with my opinion, skip it. You don't need to comment on it. And you don't need to constantly have the last word. But if you want the last word, I'm willing to give it to you. Okay? You can have the last word. End of story. I got no problem with that. Okay? I don't have to prove that I'm right because I'm not trying to do that. So when you find me making a comment on a forum, don't worry about it. If you don't agree with it, or if you don't like my perspective on things, you don't like it. That's your problem. I don't care. Just move on. You don't have to make it into a back and forth, all right? And instigate an issue because I wasn't even talking to you in the first place. And this happens all the time. I'm very outspoken, as you can tell. I have my opinions, but I respect people as much as I possibly can. All right, and I try to do that. Sometimes it doesn't come out that way because I speak frankly and I say things the way I feel. I don't mean them to be hurtful. Sometimes I do take a little, I do stick it in your side a little bit because you're getting on my nerves. But I do it in a very gentle way. Think of colonoscopy done with a corkscrew. That's the way I like to be, gentle. So anyway, that's all I wanted to talk about. I have my inside pitch league going on. My team is doing great. The league is amazing. Check it out. You can go to the Liberty League. It's called Liberty League Facebook group. It's an amazing league. You should definitely sign up. Rick does an amazing job of everything, keeping the stats and organizing the schedule and keeping everything. I mean, he is one of a kind. So, it just really makes the league a great opportunity for people. And I know we've had two or three people in and out. We have a handful of owners that have stuck around. Not a lot of teams. I believe there's about 12 teams, I believe, right? I think that's what there is, 8 to 12 teams. And a lot of fun guys, a lot of wackadoodle guys as well, grouchy guys, cranky guys like myself sometimes. But that's going outstanding. We're replaying the 71 season. And so that's going really well. So far I have a winning record. We'll see how long that lasts. And I'm working on a project with APBA. In other words, I bought a 50s box. I'm trying to restore a 50s box so it could be pristine like it was in the 50s. I have all the inside accessories all in great shape. Cards are in above average shape, not in perfect shape. But the box is a little bit beat up. It's got some tears and it's worn here and there. But I found another better box online, which the font and the graphics are very well kept. They've been protected very well. They've lasted long and they're very well. The colors are still vibrant. The blue and the white are very clean. So I bought that box, and that's the box I'm going to repair. I'm going to sell the other box to somebody else that wants to do the restoration, so that'll be online at some point. I don't like to sell stuff online. I don't like to sell stuff at all, so a lot of the stuff I buy I store and I play with. I'm not a hoarder and I'm not a collector, and when I find that I'm not, when I decide I'm not going to play and I stop playing, I'm going to sell the stuff. But I don't like to hoard, and I go through periods where I say to myself, if I buy something, I'm going to sell something. If I sell something, then I can buy something. I'm not going to buy, then I don't have any more space. As you can see, the shelves behind me, between all the books and all the boxes with cards, it's pretty overwhelming. So I'm trying to avoid being a hoarder. We have a couple of guys out there that are hoarders that don't even play games. They just store it in their basement. So they have 21 Status Pro 1983. 21 games stored up in their basement. Why are you doing that? What's the purpose of that? I mean, you're taking them off the market for other guys to buy. Then there's one on the market and we all have to fight for it and pay $170 because you're hoarding it. So stop hoarding our games. Buy a game, enjoy the game, play the game, save the game, collect the game. Don't hoard every game that's out there. It's as if I bought every 1983 Status Pro, for the next 10 years. And then every time I put one for sale, I put it for 4 times the price. It's not right. No need for that. I don't think most of us are. I mean, we have decent incomes because we're older, but not everybody has a comfortable income. You have to think of the guys that now are retiring and they're going to be on fixed incomes and want to watch their bucks. And so that's one of the things I always think about as well when I make those comments. And that's about it, guys. So this week. I don't think I've done a face-to-face video. I've never been one to do face-to-face videos. I never wanted to make it about me, but I don't think it's about me. I think it's about the hobby, but I'm sort of like a visual conduit, to that. I'm riding my motorcycles. I'm looking for my 3rd motorcycle now, and I'm really enjoying that. And that's about it. So Tom Terrific's statue went up in New York in front of Shea Stadium, and they messed up with the font on the 4. They didn't put that little piece that goes on the 4, on the back end of the 4. They forgot to add that piece there. So the font is a little bit off, but nonetheless, it's a great homage to a great pitcher who gave it all, to the Mets and led their 1969 Miracle Mets World Series victory. And that's all I have to say. DeGrom is out. He was going to be out for another couple of months. That's disappointing. And hopefully he'll come back and he'll be okay. Personally, I don't think he's going to pitch anymore in the major leagues. I think he's going through a Sandy Koufax thing. I think where he's pitched. Check out his stats from 2014 to 2021. He's been amazing. So that's 7 years. I think Koufax had about 10 years, 11 years. and then he just had to bow out. And I think that's what's headed DeGrom's way. He's going to have to bow out as well. So that's about it. Tony Porter, Cards and Dice TV. Remember to join Universal Baseball Association. It's the Facebook page for guys that hate Facebook groups. Okay, we don't walk around there. We're not totalitarian. We're not heavy-handed. We don't have a rule for a rule for a rule. Easygoing, laid back. Everybody kind of they monitor themselves. It's a good group. We got a lot of good guys in there, and there's a lot of great content that comes through there because we got some excellent contributors. So check that out. Universal Baseball Association Facebook group, and all its affiliated groups. There's about 10 other groups. There's Deep Drive Baseball. There's Sports Illustrated Baseball. There's just a lot of groups. I can't even think. Fall Classic Baseball. There is a bunch of, I can't even think of them off the top of my head, but there's definitely a lot of groups that are affiliated, sister groups. So that's about it. This is Tony Porter, Cards and Dice TV. Like, subscribe, and click on that little bell, and so you're aware of what's going on. And I do these, I guess, once every 2 to 3 weeks. And I will see you soon. Keep rolling those dice and enjoying yourself, and don't attack people. Stay out of trouble. Be good.